Hi, I'm John Paul McFarland with HR Insight. In past videos, we've talked about qualities that make effective leaders. Today we're asking, is there a single predictor of who will climb to higher levels of an organization? Of all the possible managerial competencies, is there even one that could be considered the best? This question comes directly from the book 100 Things You Need to Know, Best People Practices for Managers in HR by Robert Etchinger, Michael Lombardo, and David Ulrich, three of the heaviest hitters in organizational research. Today's question is, what is the best predictor of who will climb to higher levels of an organization and perform well once there? Choose from one of the following options. A, grades in a major. B, past performance. C, intelligence or cognitive ability. D, learning agility. Or E, functional and technical skills. The answer is D, learning agility. And how sure are the authors of this answer? The answer is substantial, meaning it's backed up by robust cross-organizational, multi-decade research. So what exactly is learning agility? Here's the definition that one researcher points to. Learning agility is the ability to learn quickly from experience and apply that learning effectively in new or changing situations. It requires the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Notice the definition doesn't say anything about being the smartest person in the room. It doesn't say anything about having the most experience. It's about what you do with that experience. Research from Yale by Robert Sternberg found that scores on a measure of learning from experience were essentially unrelated to IQ scores. Let that sink in for a second. Your ability to learn from experience is a separate skill from raw intelligence, and it turns out to be the more powerful one for predicting who will make it to the top. Researchers at Korn Ferry, one of the world's leading executive assessment firms, have identified 5 dimensions you can actually assess. First is mental agility, and that's defined as how comfortable are you in dealing with complexity. Do you seek fresh, new connections and new perspectives even when it's uncomfortable? Next is people agility. Are you skilled at working with diverse people and groups? Can you handle conflict without turning it into drama? Change agility. Do you experiment? Are you energized by change rather than threatened by it? Results agility. Can you deliver results in first-time situations when there's no roadmap? Self-awareness. Do you honestly know your strengths and your blind spots? And here's something sobering from that same Korn Ferry research. Only about 15% of people are truly strong, agile learners. That's not meant to discourage you. It's meant to show you the size of the opportunity. It's also worth noting that learning agility isn't fully fixed at birth. Research confirms it can be developed, though it's admittedly harder to cultivate than a skill like communication. The evidence for learning agility isn't just from one study. It's a mountain of converging research from some of the best institutions in the world. Research at the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina, found in study after study that successful executives shared a strikingly similar pattern. They learned powerfully from key job assignments. And in a companion study, McCall and Lombardo found that one of the leading causes of executive derailment, meaning careers that crashed or stalled, was being blocked from new learning. In a separate study that tested intelligence, personality, cognitive preference, and job satisfaction, researchers found that tacit knowledge, an applied form of intelligence or street smarts, was the single best predictor of performance. In 2025, a survey by Korn Ferry asked chief HR officers globally which leadership capability they most needed to strengthen to deliver on their business strategy. Their top answer? Agility and adaptability. Not technical skill, not industry knowledge. Learning agility. The world is accelerating, and leaders who can learn fastest are the ones who can keep up. There's also a darker side worth noting. Lack of self-awareness and the tendency to overrate oneself have been found to be career derailing. Research on 360-degree feedback found that people who overrated themselves compared to how others perceive them were more likely to be fired. This isn't just abstract research. You can actually see learning agility and its absence playing out in organizations every day. When Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft in 2014, the company had spent years losing ground in mobile and cloud computing. Rather than doubling down what had made Microsoft successful in the past, Nadella openly acknowledged the company's blind spots, reversed its competitive stance toward open source software, and championed a culture of continuous learning, famously replacing the company's old know-it-all culture with a learn-it-all culture. Under his leadership, Microsoft's market cap grew roughly from $300 billion to over $3 trillion. Contrast that with Kodak. Kodak engineers actually invented digital photography back in 1975. The company's leadership, comfortable with dominance in film, failed to learn from and act on that invention. Instead of pivoting, they protected the past. The results was bankruptcy in 2012. Amazon doesn't just talk about adaptability, it hires for it. One of its core leadership principles is learn and be curious. And candidates are expected not just to show where they succeeded, but where they failed, learned, and grew. The Center for Creative Leadership research shows that international assignments often forced managers to learn habits that didn't work at home. CCL found that many U.S. expatriates learned the hard way that what works in the United States does not necessarily work elsewhere, and that cross-cultural effectiveness improves when leaders prepare deliberately, study the local culture, listen carefully, and learn from experienced international mentors. So what do we do with all of this? Whether you're an HR professional, a manager, or someone who is thinking about your own career trajectory, here are the practical implications. For HR and managers, if you only had one thing to assess when identifying high potentials, the research is clear. Assess learning agility. There are well-validated instruments available, including Korn Ferry's VIA Edge assessment and the newly developed Leadership Learning Agility Scale. Pair that data with assessments of cognitive agility, personality, and performance history, and you'll have the most predictive talent picture possible. For managers, deliberately create stretch assignments. The research from the Center for Creative Leadership is unambiguous. Developing learning happens primarily through challenging work assignments, far more than any formal training programs. Give your best people tough, novel assignments and watch who leans in versus those who check out. For individuals, here's what learning agility looks like as a daily practice. Reflect after every significant experience, not just the failures, but the wins too. What did you learn? What would you do differently? Actively seek feedback from people who tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. Self-awareness isn't built in isolation. Volunteer for assignments outside of your comfort zone. High learning agility is correlated with seeking first-time situations. Study your own blind spots. As research showed, top performers were distinguished by self-confidence paired with genuine emotional self-control, not arrogance. Remember, since learning agility scores are largely independent of IQ, assessing someone's intelligence separately is still important. Grades and cognitive tests measure raw intelligence. Learning agility measures what you do with that experience. You need both. I'd like to leave you with a few words that capture this idea better than any data point can. Charles Darwin said, "It is not the most intellectual of the species that survives, or the strongest, but the one that is best able to adapt and adjust to the changing environment." Stephen Hawking said, "Intelligence is the ability to adapt and change." James Lewis with Korn Ferry said, "Agile leaders don't just survive change, they thrive in it." The research is clear. Learning agility predicts leadership success more powerfully than intelligence, more powerfully than personality, and more powerfully than past performance. It has the strongest relationship to performance in new and different jobs. It separates the executives who keep rising from the ones who plateau and derail. And here's the most helpful thing I can tell you today. Unlike IQ, learning agility can be developed. It's not a lottery ticket you were born with or without. It's a practice. It's a decision you make every time you face a new challenge to lean in, reflect, seek feedback, and grow. So here's your challenge this week. Think about the last significant professional experience you had. A project, a tough conversation, a failure, a win. What did you actually learn from it? Did you capture it? Did you change your behavior because of it? If your answer is no, well, that's okay. That's actually the first step. Because the most learning agile thing you can do right now is recognize where you stopped learning and start again. The future belongs to the learners, and now you know exactly what kind of learning matters most.
John Paul here. If you like this video, check out the HR Insight YouTube channel where we have more videos just like this. Make sure to click subscribe so you get notifications.